Namaste and welcome. It's Rishi here from meditatewithrishi.com. And today is a very special day because we are beginning our journey to learn and explore the 9 schools of Indian philosophy. Why? Because if you want to answer the question, how can I find that permanent happiness? Then it is imperative that we study these philosophies. Okay, so let's get into it. But before that, I just want to mention that none of what I'm sharing is my own creation. Of course not, right? It is credit to these sages that came up with these philosophies. And on a more personal level, I have learned these from one of my teachers in India called Dr. Sharma. Okay, so many of the explanations I use come directly from him. I almost feel guilty. I don't want to take credit, right? But it's also important that I share these with people that view my channel. So I'm going to share his details in the description box below. He is a fantastic doctor of Ayurveda and, in my humble opinion, one of the best teachers of Ayurveda in the world. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely check out his website. He runs live and online courses, and I'm not, by the way, earning any commission from this. This is just something I want to share with you heart to heart because I've been through it and it has been life-changing for me. Okay, so all right, now let's get into the philosophies themselves. So the first thing we want to look at is, where did all this start, right? Where did all this come from? So thousands of years ago, the sages in India, they were quite advanced. Okay, so they had come to this realization that the material world is temporary, and because it is temporary, the things that we seek happiness in are not really giving us that permanent happiness. They are also temporary, right? There is this impermanence of things. So we know this in the modern world, right? Even though we may not live it, we at some level we know, right, that the new house, car, job, drugs, sex, alcohol, food, whatever it is that we are trying to grasp, get into our reality, it comes, we enjoy it for a few days, then the excitement diminishes, and then we are on to the next thing. So we are constantly just, like monkeys jumping, like it's a rat race, right? But every time we find something, we get this happiness for a little while, and then it goes away, and we have this emptiness, and we need to fill this emptiness, so we look for something else, right? This is the dilemma, the biggest problem, right? That many of us, we don't realize that, what are we doing, right? So the ancient rishis, the ancient sages, they realized that, okay, this is not the way. So is there some permanent happiness that we can find? Is there some permanent reality that is there, besides from these temporary realities? And they changed their direction. Instead of looking outside, they began to look inward. And as they looked inward, they were able to get to know themselves. They were able to get to know the inner workings of the universe, because the universe is the macrocosm and we are the microcosm, right? So it's just us at a bigger level, ultimately. So they were able to gain a lot of insights into the nature of reality, into the nature of ourself, into the reason why we suffer, and actually figure out how to become free from the suffering. And this is the knowledge ultimately that was laid out, right? So if we look at the first written knowledge that came from India is the Vedas, right? You probably heard of them. From the Vedas came the Upanishads, then came the Puranas, and after the Puranas came the Darshans. Darshan means to see, okay? So the Darshans are the philosophies that we are going to be speaking about, because they have taken all this knowledge, the eternal knowledge of the Vedas, and filtered it, distilled it into 9 schools of Indian philosophy. Okay, so these are divided into 2, as you can see, because 6 of the schools agreed with what is said in the Vedas, okay? And they gave us the 6 schools of Vedic philosophy. But there were some other philosophers, scholars, sages that did not particularly agree with everything that was said in the Vedas, okay? And as such, they came up with their own philosophies, like Buddhism, very popular, Jainism, right? So ultimately, they were answering the same questions as well, right? How do we become free of suffering? How do we find that permanent, eternal happiness, right? So it's all about the same thing. Now, one thing to realize is that the idea amongst these was not my philosophy is better than yours. No, these are sages, right? They are trying to find the truth, ultimately. That is their main goal. So you'll see when we explore these philosophies, you will be able to see the evolution of thinking. You will be able to see the evolution of how initially they thought about God. You know, initially it was believed that there is a creator God in the sky or somewhere that is separate from us, okay? And the Almighty, right? That you have no relation to, and He controls everything. And then that changed, right? We began to realize in Samkhya and Yoga that we can actually become united with this divinity. And then later on, we realized that we are actually this divinity. Okay, so that is just one simple example, but you will be able to see the evolution of thinking. And this is how it goes, right? So all these philosophies answer those 3 main questions. Who am I? Why do we suffer? And how to become free of the suffering, okay? But they give us some real gems. So Nyaya, the first one, gives us the whole system, the science of logic and debate, how to debate correctly to arrive at the truth. Not the kind of debates we see on TV today, right? How to really debate without ego, with the intention of reaching the truth. We have Vaisheshika, which gives us the initial atomic theory. We have Samkhya, which is metaphysics. This is beautiful. It tells us exactly how the universe was created. What are all the elements that govern and go into this creation? And from that, you can understand exactly what you are made up of as well. Then you have yoga, which is the science of the mind and how to make the mind completely still, like a still lake, so you can see what lies beneath your permanent self, which is bliss. Then you have Mimamsa, which talks about the rituals from the Vedas, how to live by performing these rituals and the law of karma, right? So the way of the householder, essentially. And then you have Vedanta that comes and says that we have a different view, right? And Vedanta means the end of knowledge, which means that once you understand this, there is nothing more to be learned. There is nothing more to be asked. You will have no more questions. This is the end of knowledge, essentially. So this is the pinnacle of Indian spirituality, okay? And then on the non-Vedic side, you have Buddhism, Jainism, Charvak. So we will go into all of these and learn. We'll look at them through the lens of the 3 questions. Who am I? Why do we suffer? And how to end suffering, essentially. And this will give you a very good base of knowledge on which to now begin your inward quest, your spiritual path, essentially, right? Because, like a computer, you have come into this world with some pre-built samskaras, some pre-built, thoughts and information. So there will be some philosophies that resonate with you more than others. There will be some practices that resonate with you more than the others, right? And this will now give you the crystal clarity and the confidence to say, okay, this is what my thinking is. This is what my path is, essentially. This is how I want to go about things. And this will save you a lot of time from jumping to technique. Because one of the biggest problems we have right now is people starting the spiritual path, are looking at the internet, looking at YouTube, and they are seeing so many different things: Vipassana, Kundalini yoga, mantra, all these different things. And they think, every time they see this new, this new thing, there's this shiny object syndrome where you feel that, oh, that sounds, more advanced to what I'm doing. But ultimately, it's not like that, right? It's not like that. They're all different paths. We must choose one path and go on that, because many different paths lead up to the peak of the mountain. But to reach there, we have to stick to one path. If we keep changing, then it's not going to happen, right? So this is just a basic, brief introductory video on what are these, different philosophies. So from tomorrow, we will begin to explore them one by one. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel. That is it. Thank you for listening. Namaste.